Ask if you
This
spell
is
your
the
last name.
Affordable Housing Committee meeting of Wednesday, December 10th.
It's nice to know who people are.
It is 7
Last time
o'clock, meeting in the
Yes,
second
I'll-
floor conference room in the Old Town Hall. We do have a quorum.
Brian's also Republican.
Any place at all, just so I've got it.
I'll turn things over to you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome, everyone. We have tonight, I'll just, so Mark Barnhart, our esteemed staff lead person.
Got too carried away.
Okay. Steve Grathwohl, Jackie Page, Deb Garskoff, Herb Limecooler, Gretchen Gertner, our secretary, and Gus Laversiano, who's a guest again with us as well. So welcome, Gus.
Thank you very much.
Great. Tom Phillips would have been here, but Tom is back in India taking care of his father's estate. So he'll join us at the next meeting. So
Welcome back, Jackie.
Thank you.
good to see you, Jackie, always. So I guess the first item tonight will be the next item tonight will be to review the minutes of the November meeting, November 12th meeting.
Should be in your packet. Hopefully between Gretchen and myself, we've done service to your cause here.
We covered a lot of stuff last time.
I know you read these with a fine tooth comb, Steve, so.
Can I ask a question or make a comment, or do we have to, should we move it first and then discuss that?
Well, we can, probably we should, if someone would like to move it, we can make a motion.
I'll be happy to move it.
Okay, is there a second? Deb has second, Steve moved. Okay,
So
Steve.
this is not a big deal at all, but there's in response to a question by Mr. Garfield, Mr. Barnhart proposed an amendment to read that, and the amendment is there, and that's really not what I was getting at, and I'm not quite sure I understand the amendment. What I was assuming, and I could be wrong, is that the housing authority collects rent from all the tenants, and then they pay the expenses, and they end up with a profit. And so they receive income from not just the Housing Choice Voucher Program, but from basically every tenant. So,
That is true, but the original comment was regarding all, I think, and that it wasn't accurate. So I think we tried to correct the record to indicate that they do receive income from the housing choice. It's not limited to that solely, and it's supporting 150 households. I do recall that conversation very distinctly, and you may have had another intent, but that was what I proposed, and that was what was voted.
well, it's not worth spending much time on, so it was a comment more than anything else. So, moving along, Chairman.
Okay. All in favor of approval? Okay, so it's approved. Now, the next item would be our meeting schedule for 2026. So, normally we meet on the second Wednesday. And I think the only exception to that for next year is
Veterans Day.
working around Veterans Day. I'll just add that Hanukkah is, I think, goes to April 9th.
Not April.
Not April.
I'm sorry.
December.
I'm sorry, not Hanukkah. Passover goes, I think, until April 9th. If I have that right.
Look it up.
Easter is April 5th, so this would be Easter Wednesday that we would meet. And
I'm sorry, Easter is,
Easter is April 5th, so this would be known as Easter Wednesday. And then I thought that
There's a thing called Easter Wednesday.
It is called Easter Wednesday. Or at least historically, it's been called Easter Wednesday.
Yeah.
I've never heard of Easter Wednesday.
Me neither.
I've been going to church for.
Me too. Must be a different denomination.
Well, I mean, I think so. I mean, certainly Easter
I'm
Monday.
sure you're right, yeah.
Certainly Easter Monday, but I think,
Passover does go through April 9th.
so
Are you proposing to change that to the?
I'm not suggesting we need to change it. I'm just throwing out there to ask if we think, if we ran into prospective issue, we could always make a change later.
That would be the 15th then, instead of the 8th. Tax day. That's not a holiday, just a reason for lamentation.
Yes, so I think it's, you know, so it ends on the 9th, and I don't know, what does everybody think? Should we just leave it the way it is and then just address it if we need to? Okay, let's do that. Okay.
And the November date is, instead of the 2nd, it's going to be the 3rd.
Right.
So it'll just be 3 weeks between the November meeting and the December meeting next year.
Okay, good.
Okay, so,
Is there a motion to
yeah, a
approve the
motion
meeting
to
schedule?
approve the meeting schedule as suggested. Seconded by Jackie. Okay. All right, next item is elections.
That was approved, I assume? Okay.
Yes. So next item is elections. Now, we think we have 5 members of the committee as it's currently constructed. We have 4 tonight. So should we go ahead and?
You can all take turns.
We can take turns. Should we go ahead and vote tonight, or should we wait and hope for 5 or more next month?
Officers,
Well, you can just assign everything to Brian since he's not here.
I would move ahead, you know.
I don't think you have to wait. I will get pinged by the town clerk as to what who the officers are for 2026. So the sooner the better. But if you wanted to wait till January, I don't think that's the end of the world either. So
The new members won't be acquainted with what happens here anyway.
True.
Do we have candidates for the other positions?
you need a chair and a secretary, according to the town
I
clerk.
meant for the other members to have a full slate of people here, no?
No, you can act on it tonight.
Okay.
No,
No, I just meant in general.
You meant are there applicants for the
Yeah.
2 positions?
Oh, I don't know that either. I don't know that.
We
at
have
all.
one,
Well,
don't we?
maybe Tom, but
We know that Tom has put in an application. Tom Phillips.
He is independent?
He is unaffiliated to the best of my knowledge.
sorry, I misunderstood there.
So we would have at least one. We
That
likely will
comes
have-
down from the first selectman's office, is that it? That's where those nominations come from?
Usually the other way around, I thought. We push it up.
No, not necessarily. They occasionally, often, not always, but often ask for feedback or input from either the chair or from the staff person, but not always. It's
I mean,
definitely
we have
not-
recommended people.
We got turned down, yeah.
No, we've
No,
recommended,
no, we got those
we've
approved.
recommended people, including people that are sitting at this table.
Mark, is
So,
there an official process?
Yes, if folks are interested in serving, we refer them to a page on the town's website where you can fill out an application and indicate your interest and provide some information about yourself and your interest in serving. And then that goes to the first selectman's office. I believe these appointments are subject to the approval of the board, so they're presented, but there's conversation that takes place to ensure that minority representation is upheld. So we do need to ensure that we have a diverse body in all respects as best we can.
Absolutely. Okay, so we should proceed then, I guess.
But I would think it would be hard, you'd be hard pressed to, if somebody comes on, just immediately put them into an officer role. So it might be better to work within the existing group here. So you'll have all but one member that's returning.
So I'd like to propose that Herb continue as chairman for yet another year.
Yet another year.
Second, third,
Been doing a
fourth,
good job, working hard.
absolutely.
Steve.
Aye.
Deb.
Thank you for your confidence,
Yeah.
fellow members.
That was an approval, I guess. Is there, secretary, we do need to change because Nina was, I believe, the secretary.
She was.
Yeah, so we have had a vice chair in the past.
had a vice chair.
Yeah. Which basically runs the meeting in the absence of the chair. So,
The secretary does not replace Gretchen,
no,
and
it's
so the
not a
secretary
recording
doesn't
secretary. It's
really do
more
any
of a,
work.
it's more of a, if there were an official record of this body, the secretary would need to attest to the accuracy of that record.
Yeah.
But that's it. But we're not a regulatory body like planning and zoning. So all those findings and memorandums, decision, records of decision, they're all, the recording secretary and the secretary of the board assign all those things. So it's more ceremonial. I guess you'd be third in line if the chair and vice chair were not available, you would have to run the meeting.
You did it by two buses.
Not a long list of duties. I nominate Steve to be vice chair.
Thank you. As long as Herb is chair, I'm happy to be vice chair.
Second, second.
Was it Deb seconding that?
Oh, yeah.
So we say all in favor, four of us here. I'm certainly in favor of that. Okay, so Steve is the vice chair. And that brings us to the position of secretary.
I nominate Deb.
Hey.
I was-
Got it out first.
Ceremony, I
I would
know.
be extremely
Just
happy
asked.
with the other people in the room.
As long as it's ceremonial only.
Yeah, you're pretty
At
good.
least we're ready.
Perfect.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
All right.
So all in favor of that? Okay, great. So congratulations, Deb. Okay. All right, so we
I
have,
will so inform the town clerk's office now.
okay, thank you,
Meeting
everyone.
Schedule and election of office.
Okay.
In a related thing, I got an email, I get it every year, I guess, from Betsy Brown or from Jen Carpenter
Yep.
about Robert Rules of Order or something, and
Yes, both, there was recently a training for Freedom of Information, Robert's Rules of Order. It's, if you weren't able to attend, you have interest, I believe the information was disseminated, posted. It's really a good presentation. Yeah, there are some things that we should be mindful about. The other thing that typically,
Share it with you.
is there enough copies going around?
I'm sorry, I'm hoarding some over here.
Yeah.
I'll have to send one down to Gus.
I'll pass out.
you don't have to go.
Sorry.
It's not a requirement.
No, it's not required.
Yeah.
It's not required.
Thank you.
The other thing that we typically see from the town clerk's office about this time, and I just want to call your attention to, is the rules of conduct, the ethics provisions in the town code. You should be familiar with them. I don't see any conflicts of interest here, but there has been some changes to that ordinance over time. So again, if you would like a copy or need something to refer to, I'm happy to provide that. But
I think it's, we got an email to that effect, I think.
Probably.
And so I think there were handouts.
Okay.
That we could then provide those to everybody, I guess.
Yeah,
And I'll make a note
we've
to,
never had any issues here, but
yeah, I'll make a note to send that around to everyone. There was one thing there I did want to mention. It was said during the meeting that we should put up at least the draft minutes
I agree.
within X number of days. I think 7 days.
7 days is the standard, so I think that's something, I'll have to work with Gretchen to ensure that we have those. Usually it's kind of, if I haven't seen them, I email Gretchen a week before the meeting, and so putting the agenda together for the next month's meeting, and
Are
so.
you supposed to post them? You
They
post
should
the
be
agendas
posted.
and the minutes?
Yes, and the agendas are being posted. I think we just need to be mindful of, FOI does require that meeting minutes be posted 7 days after the meeting. And, we're not the only ones that sometimes may not not fulfill that obligation. I mean, we do refer people to recordings, but that doesn't exempt you from that requirement, so.
Didn't we kind of get in trouble once too for emailing?
Well, you will see that. Again, I think that was a little over the top. First of all, it wasn't a commission member that provided the email. It was informational. So it's not really discussing business that should happen in open session. So, I don't know that you should feel, you should be reluctant. You come across a newspaper article like Steve is apt to do, he shares that. I don't think that's a problem. It's an issue if we have a matter that's going to come before it and we're having conversations informally via email before, the public doesn't have access to. So we want to be mindful of that. But providing information of upcoming webinars or seminars or workshops or a report that you find interesting or a newspaper article, that's already in the public domain. So that's not.
And it's healthy for us to do that, to communicate with each other between meetings as well. Wouldn't be worried about that. We've been chastised multiple times.
But one thing, I do send it out, and I usually, when I send the town clerk an email with our meeting notice and agenda, I usually send it as a separate email because they do not like reply all. So when people reply all with, I'm coming, they get very upset with that. So sometimes I forget and I copy them on the email. Just, if you're going to reply your attendance plans, just send it, just reply to me directly. And we won't have an issue.
Oh, good. Okay, so now we've got old business and we've got a number of items here.
Yeah. So Steve has been pestering me to provide an update as to residential developments that have below market rate or affordable units within them. And so this is we have this presented in a lot of different forms. This is really lifted from our tracking sheet that we're looking at to prepare our second moratorium. So, I've organized this or grouped these according to project status, which I think might be helpful to understand better what projects are likely to move forward in the immediate future. That might help contribute points towards a subsequent moratorium. So you'll see at the top are projects that have been completed since our first moratorium. They include the development, the first building within the creek line at Fairfield Metro, formerly known as, on Ash Creek Boulevard, and then the two duplexes that we're doing with Habitat for Humanity on Greenfield Street that did receive their COs and deed restrictions in place. There are several projects that are in construction. They include the two set-aside developments that we've talked about before on 131 Beach Road and 140 Bronson, both of which should be completed probably in the next 60 to 90 days. I would anticipate that Beach Road will begin its marketing, pre-leasing activities probably sometime next week. And Bronson is probably not too far behind. There's a couple projects, inclusionary projects, the one on Pequot Avenue. This is a condominium development. The idea, and again, there was some provisions made in the regulations to allow for the designation of off-site units to satisfy the inclusionary requirement. They have not yet identified those units, but we're carrying, they have to either produce them on-site or off-site to the satisfaction of the commission. And then the newest one, 81 Black Rock Turnpike, just began site work and remediation. This is the former, it is the brownfield site. It's former Bullard's Foundry next to the train station itself, between the train station and Illicit Brewing. Fairly good-sized development, 245 units. With mixed use development with some commercial as part of the overall development plan. So that's a large project. It will probably take at least a couple of years to be completed. But they began work, they closed on the property a few weeks back and started work this past week with remediation activities. And then the bottom category are projects that we think are more likely to move forward. They're approved, they're not under appeal, they're approved, and they're more likely to move forward next year. So they include the project by the Fairfield Housing Corporation at 980 High Street, the mixed-use development downtown, which was the subject of litigation, was settled on 15 Umpqua. There's a project that was approved back in 2018 for 20 residential units on 159 Post Road, right as you're going into Black Rock section of Bridgeport. A set-aside development of 105 Bureau Street that was recently approved and wasn't appealed. And they seem to be moving ahead with their plans to file for a building permit. And then another inclusionary development on Commerce Drive, developers of Trademark One and Alto, they have a third phase, which is 90 units. Again, we would expect that to be under construction sometime towards the middle of next year. And then on the second page, we have other projects that are approved but are delayed, or we're not sure of how quickly they will, it's indeterminate as to their plans. And under that, there's another section that is approved but under appeal. So there's pending, was an appeal taken either by the developer or in most of these cases, if not all, neighboring property owners have taken an appeal on these developments. So again, that could take a year plus to kind of wind through the system and then have a resolution there. And then I have the last category of projects that Katona Drive would appear to be abandoned at this point. We'll probably drop it from the list. They just recently got an approval for an early child care center, the Goddard School. I was going there. That was a conversion of an old office building. That's the office building.
That'll be their second one.
Just opened one.
By McDonald's, right?
By McDonald's, behind McDonald's. 4221 is the subject of a current planning and zoning application. I wasn't at the meeting last night. I don't know if they did anything with it, but and then the last one is the rest of the Fairfield Metro development. It's approved for 357 units. There's been discussion about coming in with a revision to their master plan for the site to increase the number of units, but they haven't done so yet. So it's going through a couple changes in the ownership structure recently, and they've revised their development team. Their architect is new, so they're in the process of revising their plans, and we would expect them to come back with at least a concept plan first quarter.
Mark, is that Ash Creek?
Ash Creek, yes.
So Ash Creek lists here as 286.
So that's what's left.
That's what's left.
So it was 357 minus 71. So now, again, I wouldn't get too caught up in the number of units because their intent is to come back with a revised master plan submission that would show, upwards of 600 units for the site. Again, not something that gets built out all at once, but over a period of 10 plus years. As we, even when projects move quickly, they're 3 to 5 years in development. So
Can you say if you work it up on page 2, the Sunshine Group, Shapiro Commons, and 441?
yeah, you'll see two projects there. We're carrying both. One at some point they'll decide which one, but in all cases, I believe the preference for all development groups. The developers and the town is for the mixed-use development, the inclusionary development. But you'll recall that they all filed contingency plans, alternative Bs, if you will. And the Planning and Zoning Commission did review them either concurrently or shortly thereafter and made decisions. In all cases, they approved them with conditions of some sort or another. So that's why we carry two of them. And that's part of the caveat, because I think those nuances might get lost. If you just total up the number of units, people would say, oh, wow, that's a lot of units. But you have to then factor in that some of these will fall by the wayside, either because in this case, they can only do one or the other. And in other cases, as we've seen, a good 25-30% of projects just don't get built. They get abandoned for one reason or another, and that's been the case historically here in Fairfield. So I would expect, within this group here, on this page and the next page, that some of these projects may never happen.
Now, the blue group, the ones that are under appeal, approved and under appeal, are these all in litigation?
Yes.
Strictly formally in litigation?
Yep.
So these could drag on for an extended period of time.
Yeah, usually a couple years.
What's the thinking? Is that they want to build a bigger one, but they think they might not be able to, so they put it in
Well,
second?
the thinking for the developer is that the onus is on the town planning and zoning, the town, or the appellant to demonstrate that this is, there's a substantial risk to public health and safety. So the burden of proof is on the town or the party that's bringing the appeal. It's a much higher burden. So their likelihood of being sustained on appeal, the developer, is higher. And that's why they filed the 830G applications.
And these, a number of these are under appeal by residents,
I think they all are.
all by residents. So these are.
All these are approved. When I say approved, what the Planning and Zoning Commission recently has been approving them with a lot of conditions attached. Not your typical, but they have tried to frame this in some way. So, but they don't believe, at least the majority doesn't believe in making that determination that there were substantial risks to public health and safety that outweigh the need for affordable housing, or they can't be otherwise mitigated through some type of change. So I think they're trying to apply the law correctly, but I'm positive that they're not thrilled with many of these applications, but I think they feel like they didn't have much choice if they were applying the law properly.
Are there any developments that have been declined that are in litigation? Do we know more?
That will be withdrawn or abandoned?
Well, I'm thinking about something like Bronson Road that, has now gone through the litigations being constructed, but anything that's been turned down by.
Well, the last one we lost was Berkeley. When the town took the appeal and we lost, that was Berkeley. Everything else subsequent to that, this most recent grouping in the light blue were all approved.
So there's nothing that's been declined and is.
Even the one on Reef Road, I know they had substantial concerns about in the flood zone. DEP provided a lot of commentary on that, but ultimately they voted to approve it with conditions. So I haven't reviewed this with my colleagues in planning and zoning. I think this is a pretty accurate list, but I will just make sure that I didn't miss something along the way and properly reflect it. But we'll update this list monthly so you have something to refer to. And then we can also keep track of what projects are moving ahead. And then when I mention them, you have something to refer back.
Mark, we get requests from people, what's going on and with development. It'd be nice in some cases to give an informed person a copy that.
Yep.
Not going to do that until you.
Yeah,
If
if
it's
you
official.
would give me just another week or so to just double check with planning and zoning, we'll go through this again next month. And hopefully that will be, we'll post it. Instead of providing a copy, I'll probably post it to the site and then share a link with you. And then if you wanted to make a copy, you could do that. But
When's the next deadline? When's the next moratorium?
well, our current moratorium runs through March of 2029. So the bigger issue, as we know with any development, it takes, even once projects are approved, it takes typically good 6 months to get your construction plans, line up financing, get a contractor on board, and then depending on the complexity of the project, a year to 2 years to build, get your CO at the end. So at the end of the day, we need to have projects that are not only approved, but built and occupied with the CO when that moratorium expires. So, I'd like, from my perspective, if projects aren't kind of in the ground by the end of next year, you might question whether or not they would actually contribute points by the time we need them. Maybe we have a little flexibility depending on the size of the project, but certainly, it's we don't have until 2028, 2029 to make things happen. So it's really the next year or two will be crucial. And the other thing that's really impacting that, I haven't completed my full analysis, and I know Steve shared a summary. There's a lot of summaries of HB 8002. Brian had shared the OLR analysis last meeting. I often find looking at those summaries that they have a certain point of view or perspective, and talking about things in a way that's very clear as to the author's feelings on the matter. So I like to look at things as they're written in the bill and make sure we understand what we're obligated to do. So I've been going through and taking a more thorough approach, just to better, and as it relates to the housing growth plan component. So I've gotten a good portion of the way through it, but there's still some work to be done. But it does have implications for our work. One of the things, our current affordable housing plan runs through 2027, 5-year plan, but this statute kind of supersedes that now, so we won't begin planning until 2028, with it being due in 2029. There's clearly an emphasis and preference for regional plans. Very clear in the bill that they're asking towns and cities to work together to develop regional housing growth plans. And the real crux of it will ultimately be, what are those targeted goals? The state has to conduct a housing needs assessment, then develop affordable housing goals, and then targets for each region. And the region then has to develop those analysis further and develop specific goals for municipalities. And some municipalities are not, they have some exemptions in terms
I'm just going to get back to fair share then. The state is going to tell the region you need 1,000 units, and the region's going to tell Fairfield you need 200.
Right. That's the way it works.
That's not good.
It may not be. It really depends on how realistic those goals are, And that's, if it's reflecting current realities, I can see a scenario where you're informing the region as they're developing these goals of what is in the pipeline, what's likely to get built over the next 5 years, and then your goals reflect kind of current reality on the ground, which is kind of the approach we take with the plan. We try to test it to make sure that we're not setting, we want aspirational goals. We want to be somewhat ambitious, but we also want to be realistic. We want things that we can accomplish within the next 5 years, not things that are pie in the sky. And so it really will, if it's driven by the state down through the region to the town, it really does depend on what the housing needs assessment says and what those targets are as determined by the state of Connecticut. And if they are reasonably well informed and they make those goals somewhat realistic, it'll
any
work
idea
out. But
when
if not, then we're going to
Our
have
region
trouble.
is going to be done with their planning, because we've got to do our planning, right, independently, and they're going to do some planning that will affect.
Well, the way it works is they have timelines, and so we're going to understand, and that's, if you take a little editorial here, we're talking a little bit about, people were talking about housing crisis. We need to create housing units right now. This plan doesn't really do that. The goals, it's very top-driven in the sense that the state will do a needs assessment, determine what those goals are. They have a prescribed timeline to do that, and the region has to then develop its own regional housing assessment, develop its goals based on what's being told to them by the state, and then, giving targets to individual municipalities, part of that regional planning group, that we were then either working independently to develop our own plan based on those goals, or working collectively as a region to do that. And, if you do it, you get some benefits. If you don't do it, you get punished. And one of the sticks that are out there is that the moratorium is off the table. If you don't do these things, you can't qualify for a moratorium. So, yeah, it's a pretty strongly written piece of legislation. It's not all smiles and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think before the regional plan has to be submitted, 90 days before that time, the town has to submit its housing growth plan to the.
If it chooses to do it independently, we have to go to the region 90 days before we submit it to this Office of Policy and Management. If our goals are different than what the region has provided as a target, we have to explain why. That's subject to review by OPM. So it's a very, bureaucratic process, top-down process.
It is. And so it's interesting that we have until potentially as late as, I guess they can do it earlier, but potentially as late as the middle of 29 to submit the MetroCog plan. But then there are always these interim dates.
Right.
There's a date when they establish the reporting requirements, and a date when they provide tools that you can use and whatnot. Part of this is developing this map of developable land. And I think that'll be interesting to see what that looks like.
Well, the first date that we'll be mindful of is by December 1st of next year. OPM will need to complete its housing needs assessment and determine housing growth targets for the state in each planning region. So by this time next year, we'll have the targets. And then by June, the COGs need to complete their regional housing assessment and determine what, each municipality's fair share will be.
So that's June 1st of 27? 27.
Yeah. And then you have until June 1st of 29 to actually produce the plan, either the region or the town, working independently. But again, there's strong incentives to work through the region. Because you kind of read it, and clearly they want to disincentivize people from going it alone. Because you still have to go to the region and justify your plan and how you deviate from any of the targets that they've assigned, so. The other concern that, clearly, there's a lot of money for the regional planning agencies in the bill, $7 million to be allocated for planning support, which is great. But the regional planning agencies haven't had much of a track record in developing housing plans, regional housing plans, or doing any housing planning at all. They originated as transportation planning agencies. And so, there's a little concern there as to how they will fulfill that function, but they're getting a lot of money to help do that.
And do we know how they're gonna do that? I mean, is there gonna be?
We don't know. Well,
consultation with the
there's
various
some,
towns to have their input on what they believe,
what the goals are.
yeah. And the
Well,
analysis and all that,
They're supposed to, the OPM secretary is supposed to consult with Department of Housing and DECD and other key stakeholders, including the COGS, to develop that needs assessment and targeted goals. But we know there are housing advocacy groups out there that are, have their own ideas as to what those goals should be.
The whole format of this thing is going to be prescribed, I think. It's not, you're not going to be, the COGS aren't going to be able to sort of do this without structure and guidance. Like there's one date, even next year, Mark, I think it's OPM establishes guidelines for the data reports.
Yep.
March 1st of next year. So they're already thinking in terms of what data do we want to see? What data does the COG have to compile? And then that'll all flow down to us, I guess.
Yeah, they're very specific in terms of what a municipal housing growth plan or a regional housing growth plan should address. And you have to address the consistency with town, region, and state plan of conservation development. You need to identify specific zones or parcels that could be developed to meet the town's goals through the process of summary review. So summary review is a process in local zoning that does not require a public hearing. You do it in public session. You're reviewing to determine whether or not it complies with your regulations, but it's not subject to public hearing. It also needs to address the strategies that the municipality has adopted or will adopt to develop a diverse range of housing options, which pretty typical. An inventory of developable land, an explanation as to how the plan addresses housing needs, promotes housing choice and economic diversity, and affirmatively furthers fair housing obligations. Identifies any infrastructure needs to help meet the town's affordable housing goals, and provides an implementation schedule. So it's and those elements are part of the region as well as so they don't, everyone has to go through that same planning process. And I think, again, we're further along than a lot of places in terms of developing strategies and looking at parcels or zones that could be used and infrastructure requirements and the like. So, but it will be very interesting for sure.
Yeah, I think we can be confident that we've really done a good job to date. We're diligent and on top of things, and we have excellent staff people and commissions that are really dedicated to this whole thing. And I think if we do continue to do our best, we're going to be okay.
I think so. One of the things, we've got a couple different avenues. So just by, if we participate fully in CMDA, that does give us a leg up. And, the RTM has already indicated that we're interested in joining. So, there are a couple different options you can take to satisfy the requirements. Some are more draconian than others. There's a lot of language in terms of creating overlay districts and things of that nature, but in order to qualify, you have to basically approve based on certain minimum densities, things as of right. So, even in our transit-oriented development district, we don't have as of right development. You still need to come in and present, subject to a public hearing. It's not an administrative approval. We do allow as of right for single family and some smaller multifamily in those zones, 2, 3, and 4 family in B and C zones, but everything else requires a public hearing of some sort. So it's a pretty sweeping piece of legislation for sure. I will hopefully I'm going to share my thoughts with my colleagues in planning and zoning because I know they're kind of doing the same thing to look at what changes they would need to make to their zoning regulations to comply with the statute. I think it does take effect January of 2026. So I know, one of the things that was talked about is developments under 16 units can't have minimum parking requirements. So, at the very least, our parking requirements will change. And it doesn't mean that you can't require the developer or the applicant to provide parking analysis to justify what parking they're providing, but you can't set minimum requirements or standards. So there will be some changes for sure.
And there's I guess a Zoom session that Desegregate Connecticut is putting on January 15th,
Yeah.
6:30 to 8:30.
Yeah, it's always good to get as much information as possible. Some groups obviously will spin it in a different way, lean heavily into the benefits associated with it. And there are some substantial ones in terms of grants and aid for infrastructure, additional monies for school construction projects if you're compliant. So there are some things in there that are definitely beneficial. Really, what I go back to is what's the goal, and how realistic is that goal? And again, we're in a fairly small planning region compared to some, and 6 towns and cities. And, Bridgeport, like a lot of other larger cities, will be exempt from some of the requirements because it will be one of the 20 lowest on an equalized net grand list per capita basis. So they don't have to, comply with some provisions or contribute in the same way that other towns will. And, there are places that have infrastructure in place that would support higher levels of density than others. And that's just the reality too. No one should really get a free pass, but as a again, reality, you're not going to be seeing large multifamily developments in Easton. So
What region are we in?
MetroCog, or the Greater Bridgeport Regional Planning Agency. It's referred to both.
Is it more than Fairfield County?
No, it is 6 towns. It is Easton, Monroe, Trumbull, Stratford, Fairfield, and Bridgeport.
All right, so 3 of them have sewer systems,
Correct.
something like that. And 3 of them are, or at least 2 are along the train
There's the
tracks
Trumbull, yeah.
and stuff.
So, the way I read it, Bridgeport will have, they already have a substantial amount of housing, and many of which is deed restricted as such, and they're among the 20 lowest on an equalized grand list basis, so they won't have to fully contribute in the same way other communities will. And Easton and Monroe, as we know, are largely rural with no sewers, and so that leaves three communities to kind of pick up the slack.
Sort of a big target on Fairfield is what I see.
That's my concern.
Yeah.
And again, it depends on how this is all apportioned. If it's a portion reflecting that reality, then I don't have an issue with it. But if you just divvy it up and say, okay,
Yeah,
here it is.
the way they allocate the quotas.
The original fair share allocation was frightening. So hopefully, we've come a long way, and then that's evolved since then, so we'll have to see. Happy holidays.
Okay, Mike, so we're still in old.
Yeah, I will hopefully complete this. Again, Steve's summary was great, Brian's as well, so a lot of that's very good. You should take a look at it, and we'll, I'm sure, have further conversation at next month's meeting. Housing Trust Fund?
Yeah, we covered all these items in a lot of detail last time. So I'm not sure we have to spend that much time this time on every one of them, but we should go through them.
Sure. So the Housing Trust Fund, the current balance as of 11/30 is $1,412,545. We have set aside a reserved $570,000 for High Street, leaving an unrestricted, uncommitted balance of $842,545. I do have one project that we've been working on within the Parkview Commons development, which we talked about before. We had one of the owners approach us and ask whether we'd be interested in acquiring her property. She's intent on moving, and it is adjoining other parcels that we're redeveloping with Habitat. So we are interested. We did an appraisal. We made an offer. We're still in discussions. Complicating factor is they had a solar system installed on the house as a rental lease. And I've been trying to track down because the company that installed it went out of business. But there is a successor, and I'm trying to understand what's left on the term and what's the obligations, and if there a buyout provision, because we don't want to own a solar array or have to pay on it. So that's in Parkview. We have begun demolition of 385 and 409, or started that work, and we are still awaiting some additional plans from Habitat so that we can pursue our coastal area management application with planning and zoning. I expect that soon. So I think they were going to do some additional soil borings in the area just to make sure that they have the geotechnical side down. So that hopefully will be before the Planning and Zoning Commission early next year. And then again, the plan would be to start construction of those two duplexes sometime in the spring. In Greenfield Street, we're done with 240 to 246, the 4 units. And the homeowners are in, they haven't closed. They are renting at the present time. I assume that Habitat will apply whatever rent payments they make to their mortgage. We went through, Habitat had expressed an interest in setting up a common interest community, a small condo. So I think we're now in agreement as to the language. We do need to revise the declaration of covenants and restrictions to reflect this. And that needs to be amended and restated and recorded on the land records before we file the common interest community and before we close. So it's been
These poor people want
I'm doing a lot of lawyers right now, sorry. But trying to get this thing The good news is hopefully once we do the first one, the rest will be more
Oh, sure, no problem.
smoothly. But, yeah, it's been a challenge. Fortunately, they're in, so at least they have the benefit of the units. All in name are they the owners at this point. The only thing I did want to mention under the Housing Trust Fund too, Bob Elwanger had helped us put together this brochure. And we're down to we didn't do a big run because I think we anticipated having some better graphics at the time, we were hopeful that we'd have projects that we could, and we do have, Habitat now has completed those, so we have some better pictures. But we really should update this, and maybe we want to be provide more information or in terms of charitable giving, as part of your legacy giving, if you set up a trust or, you have to take minimum distributions at a certain age, you can do those through this. You can put it into a trust fund or help contribute to charitable ventures like this. So I think anything along those lines would be helpful. So I don't know if who's doing that, but because Bob's not here, but.
I mean, everybody else does that now, so we should, right?
Right. So I just want to mention that would be a good goal for this group for next year, to revise this brochure. And, maybe we could,
Do you have that brochure, like you can email it around
I think I do, yeah.
so that we could look at it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you probably can go online to some of your favorite nonprofit or charitable organizations, just kind of lift language off, because a lot of them have, language. And of course, it always contains the caveat, please consult with your tax advisor or financial planner before blah, blah, blah. So, we'll make sure we review it with whoever we need to review it with. I'm sure the town attorney will take a look at it before we publish it.
Do you need us to format it, Mark, or is it just sufficient if we provide the suggested
I think we need the
text?
content. We probably can reformat it ourselves. Like I have somebody in my office that's very good at Canva and can probably lay it out very well, but the content is really good. I did include the ADU workshop. We did get 33 responses to our survey. Thought we had a decent turnout for the workshop. I think the workshop did very well. I don't know if you'd like to say a few words, but I don't think there was anything surprising in terms of the survey results. Most of the survey respondents live in Fairfield, not surprisingly. Most of them own their own home. Again, we're definitely doing the right thing by having these workshops, because a good number of people, about 2/3, know little to nothing at all about accessory dwelling units. That's why we're having these workshops. 75% are interested in creating an ADU. The top reasons are to provide housing for a family member or create flexibility to age in place. Many people cite regulatory barriers as a concern as to why they can't move forward. They also indicate there's concern about site constraints and cost, top three. And I don't know that folks here are ready to start building right away, but they're really trying to think ahead. The answer to the question, are you likely to create something in the next 5 years in ADU? Most people say, I don't know. And not surprisingly, again, more than half of our respondents are over the age of 65. So definitely an older crowd.
Probably good for the committee to see those, Mark.
What's that?
Probably good for the committee to see those. I mean,
Survey?
I have the ones you sent me. I'll be happy to forward.
I will forward this out. I've got to save it as a PDF, so I'll send it around.
So Deb and Steve, you were there. Do you want to offer any comments or thoughts about the workshop?
I thought it was great. I was impressed with the attendance. I mean, I thought there was a good showing, and I thought the presenters were great. I was surprised at the number of questions that were coming from the audience, you know. They were very engaged in hearing what was going on.
Builder was terrific. As was the homeowner.
This was our third
It was
year,
great.
Fourth.
fourth year. So I don't recall that there was much variation in the questions that we had gotten from the prior years. You know, that people have a need to understand what their options are, but I think most of the questions we get are the same ones, just
Different people asking the same thing. Yeah.
I'll let you know if I agree next year.
Maybe we should make a list of the frequently asked questions and put.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I thought they all did a great job. So the builder is Oscar Leal. I think it's Beach Walk Homes, I think is the name of his organization. And then his client, the ADU owner, Brian Fitzgerald, lives on North Street. And this was, so way up. And this was a barn that was converted. And I thought initially that he owned the property, but actually his daughter owns the property. And so his wife had a stroke a couple of years ago. She's doing better, but still has some limitations. So this was all designed to make life easier for the two of them. And it's a pretty small space. It's like 800 or 900 square feet, I think.
Yeah, it was 900, but it looks pretty spacious
It
to
looks
me.
nice. And they did a wonderful job with the space. And one of the realtor, Denise Walsh, this is the third time we've had her, and she was great. But she kept emphasizing, you don't have to build 1,400 square feet. Build 1,000, it works out great. And it was just
Too big is too much.
yeah, too big is almost too much. And she cited some numbers that make it clear that these really rent for nice amounts for someone who wants to be thinking about the investment value of these. So they did, and Emmeline did a great job. All I had to do was basically introduce people, say a few things about what we do here, and get out of the way, and it worked. It worked.
I mean, what did he say the cost to build per square foot? 300?
Well,
That wasn't like top end finishes and
Yeah,
everything. I think it was in that 300.
he was sort of trying to avoid. He was trying to avoid.
but he did throw out a number.
He did throw out that number.
And if you were at 1,000 square feet, that's $300,000. So
That seems
I'm
low to
not
me.
talking about.
That would be higher than that.
So I mean, to Denise's point, again, part of it is cost too. You don't need that as an accessory unit in order for it to be a good investment, either for rental income or for yourselves.
Yeah, I think she was saying that if you were to try to rent it out, if you had 800 square feet, you'd get X dollars. If you had 1,000 square feet, you wouldn't get that much more.
Right.
And so,
So it's not justified to spend that much more.
Right. He also said, the builder also said that the cost of, and I guess the homeowner opined on this as well, the cost of the aging in place features were minimal. So if thinking about, the wider
Yeah.
doorways or the rails or whatever you wanted, that those are relatively minimal. So think ahead, plan well, and it can really turn out to be a great product. But this was really very impressive. So may get to this later, but the builder told me he'd love to help us in some way in terms of providing, way into the work that we do. He didn't volunteer to become a committee member specifically, but he did say he'd be happy to meet with us, work with us. So Steve and I have been kicking the idea around, actually it was Steve's idea, that maybe we could find some group of experts that we could meet with periodically, not to come to every meeting, but 3 or 4 times a year. I think that was a great idea, Steve.
yeah. There was an architect who's been to a couple of the charrettes and a couple of the meetings, and she's local, but they're really busy. And it'd be hard for them to commit to be an active monthly member, but an architect, an attorney, builder, if, you know, we could meet
It
with them.
is very good. And, you know, I was thinking some of the builders that we've talked to in the past, you know, come before us with individual project ideas. We can invite them back just to get an update or even to pick their brain a little bit more in terms of what they're seeing.
Yeah.
So,
He was very explicit with this offer, so I think we should definitely find a way to engage with him somehow.
okay.
You mentioned it a couple times to me. So, great, Mark. So, and you know, we had even more people who signed up that didn't show, as I recall. So, is there a way to maybe get back to everybody who signed up and send them a copy of or a link to the recording?
Yeah, I will. I
Slides?
just made a note. Emmeline was out for a few days around the holidays, and I wasn't able to get the finished slide deck. I do have the recording, so I just need to put them together and post it, and then put out a link. We can certainly email the list.
Yeah. That'd be great. And we can think of other ways to communicate this going forward. You know, it doesn't have to be a once-a-year effort. You know, we can find ways to.
Yeah, yep. We have talked about doing another workshop in the spring potentially too. You know, so.
So FCCHO,
Nothing to report there.
nothing to report.
The plan of conservation development was adopted and readopted. It was readopted by the new commission.
That's right, readopted.
Yep. They have made technical updates to the regs, and they're in the process of updating some of their regulations further to start to advance some of the policy goals outlined in the POCD. And we've talked about, and I think now the commission has a few things, planning and zoning has a few things on their priority list, but then immediately after that, they've indicated or certainly expressed receptivity to meeting jointly with this group to talk about some of our specific policy ideas and goals. And one of the things I noticed is going through the regs is there's a lot of language regarding affordable housing that's kind of scattered in multiple places. It doesn't always hang together very well. Some of it's a little bit contradictory, and you know, maybe there's an opportunity to kind of consolidate and clean up the language as we go through it, and you know, look at where we can push the needle a little bit. So I think that hopefully, again, I know we keep pushing it back, but you know, we'll have a better. I think we're at the point now where to have a joint meeting, we need to kind of start developing a specific set of policies and language, draft language that we can then take to them. So that'll be an objective for our next, you know, meeting or two. Right.
Should we try to do some work, you think, want to draft for the
I think
next
we'll need to
meeting?
draft something. I'll probably, you know, whether it's you and myself or whoever, a smaller group, meet with the town planner and the planning staff just to kind of get their thoughts and then come back officially to this board, have us review it. We do have some draft language. We just need to probably dust it off and make sure it's current, because I know even the citations have changed in terms of where they exist in the regulations. So
Historically, they've met roughly twice a month. And next year, they're planning on 3 meetings a month.
one of which dedicated to planning.
Right, which is a big change because previously their meetings were, you know, largely transactional and there wasn't much time for planning, and now they're allocating, you know, a meeting a month for planning. So that's really great. And
What happened to the zoning changes that they've been working on for 5 years or something?
Those are all policies in the plan of conservation development, so they're not really
No, but there was a
implementation.
group out of Pennsylvania that was, I thought, rewriting the zoning regs.
Well, they did. They made the technical updates. So we had that. And
So that work is done.
yes, and as I said, if you kind of go through it, a lot of the draft language you looked at was referring to section this and that in the old regulations, and then now all those citations have changed.
Yeah.
And then as I go through it, again, as I just went through it, looked for affordable housing references, you can see all the sticky notes. It's throughout, and they're not always consistent in terms of the language. So, it's really was kind of taking the language and kind of putting it in a different format. And some of it's great because, now we have like tables, like this is really easy to understand in terms of what the permitted uses within each zone are. So there's definitely some improvements, but another iteration is going to be necessary just to update the language further. That's probably our affordable housing goals.
That's good. Anything else, Mark? So on the goals, good lead into the goals. So we had 7 goals in the plan, and we've been actively working on probably 4 of those goals. And another one of the goals is work with the FHA, and of course, we have 980 High Street, so we've been working with them. So the goals that we haven't really delved into, I guess, largely address, program administration, deed restriction, that kind of stuff. Is there anything that we?
Yeah, I do think there's probably some areas where we should, we're, as we go through this with administering these deed restrictions, getting compliance reports in, just, we've noticed a few things along the way where maybe the language could be tweaked a little bit to either provide additional teeth or enforcement authority, provide some guidance to those that are submitting reports. So there's probably a few things along the way like that.
Well, one thing we talked about, and one thing we talked about is extending deed restriction, trying to find ways to, avoid properties coming off of the deed restriction list. And of course, also looking to go beyond 40 years whenever possible with new projects. And that sounds nice. I'm sure it's harder done than said. But anything come to mind that we can do?
Nothing new, other than what you said. That's why I think that's why this committee was okay with the offsite in lieu of, because the benefit would be conveying those, and they would be permanently restricted. So I think that's a nice benefit if we can.
But we could put that language in the regs anyway. We could make any of the housing permanently restricted.
We could, yeah. I don't, for ownership, I'd almost argue it should be anyway, because, why should the person that's holding the title at 39 years be entitled to windfall? If the person who's developing it has already, paid for that. So it's not going to impact anyone. But in terms of developers themselves, rental, you can probably make an counter argument to that. But.
A couple things related to maybe not necessarily our goals, but I guess at least our overall goals as a town. most of these units that we're looking at, have been rentals as opposed to own units. And I know there's real demand on the part of downsizing folks in town to be able to continue to own a unit.
It might be changing. Yeah. So I'm hearing more interest in developing condos. So I think they're definitely responding to what they perceive to be a market need. So,
I mean, is there anything we can do to try to foment that, to encourage that?
well, I think the big challenge that what I've heard from developers is how to navigate the inclusionary requirement. We want to provide more modestly priced condo units here in town, and we're pointing folks to well, if you can't develop them on site, you have the option of developing off site, but of course, easier said than done in terms of providing, finding, it's a very tight market. So they're having a hard time identifying inventory that they could provide as an alternative, as an option. So, and again, there's been conversation, well, would you consider a payment in lieu like other communities? We've talked about that. And we kind of went off, we at one point recommended it and went off the rails because of one particular developer. And again, we may have differences of opinion as to what the valuation structure should be. That's another option that we could explore, specifically as it relates to home ownership. But, again, as I've explained and as Steve knows, I mean, the issue with getting payments in lieu of is having a housing trust fund is nice, but it's a two-step process versus getting the units. It's a one-step process. You have the benefit of the units as opposed to money in a bank that you then have to go find something to develop. So we've talked about it before. There are pluses and minuses, but I think that's something that condo developers are wrestling with.
I think there's also a perception in the community that we should be doing, could be doing more in terms of developing
Home ownership.
senior housing. And of course, a lot of these units really are
Senior housing.
senior housing.
Yeah, the problem with creating actual senior housing, deed-restricted elderly housing, is it's not worth very many points. If our objective, our goal is to extend the moratorium, we need to try to maximize points where we can. And unfortunately, the formula in state law only gives a half point for elderly units, whether it's ownership or rental. So you'd be better off creating a development without an age restriction that is more senior friendly and provides all the amenities that a senior population would need, but don't have the age restriction in place.
It doesn't address the seniors who want to live only with seniors.
That's true. And that is going to be the issue because there are a couple that are coming down the pipe.
What's the theory behind only assigning a half point?
Well, I think what initially, early on, I think the issue was that many communities would readily create elderly or senior housing, and that was their way of providing affordable, because it was more palatable to the community, so they wanted to disincentivize that, incentivize people to create more family housing. And so, the point totals reflect that, those priorities for sure.
When we did a survey, when we were putting together the 2022 to 27 plan, the feedback we got from the community was definitely we're more accepting of senior housing that's affordable than we are of family housing that's affordable. It was really pretty
Definitely have, and that's not a Fairfield thing. That's pretty much
Yeah, it's school oriented. They don't want the kids.
yeah. Well, and I think that's a little bit misguided because we've demonstrated through our own data that many of these units don't really provide a lot of school-age children. Certainly not anything comparing to single-family homes, but I think there also is a feeling like seniors, they've lived in town and it's nice to give back to them or provide some options. So maybe it's more that, I don't know. But it definitely, was very pronounced in the survey, and that's, I guess, what you find pretty much everywhere.
It'll be interesting to see what we hear in the community. In addition to the session we had contemplated, Julie DeMarco heads our Bigelow Center, Senior Center, told me that they do these Thursday night sessions, as you know, and she would love to have one on housing in the spring. And she said, she was talking about, POCD 8002, Affordable Housing Committee, and I said, well, we may need to narrow our focus a little bit. And so I think she's thinking, well, maybe more than one session. But I think it's good to hear that there's that interest. And so there'll be opportunities, I think, out there for us to do that and to get members of the committee involved in making these presentations. So I think that would be a great thing for all of us to somehow be involved in that. Give Mark a little bit of a break.
I just did put on our new business that we'll need to prepare our annual report for the RTM, so that'll be on next month's agenda too. So I'll have a draft for you to look at.
You want me to give you some?
Yes,
some,
please.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll wait until the end of December.
Yeah, that's why I'm waiting
Yeah.
as well. So.
I saw on the minutes that you talked about videos messaging,
Yes.
and I did this afternoon do a little work on it because I had told Mark that I would look into it, and so he gave me a lead of Alec Vishnu of A2V,
Yep.
A2V Media, who did the Safe Streets gratis, his group. He said he was very supportive of it, so he contributed a lot of the work himself. But I talked to him quite a while this afternoon, and he's done a lot of work. He lives in Fairfield. He's done a lot of work with the fire department, the police department, Parks and Rec. He works under both Bill and Brenda. And he's won 3 Emmys the last 3 years running for his work. So I think he does a good job. I haven't looked at it in depth, but what I saw was good. So we talked a little bit. I didn't get any pricing or anything yet because I wasn't sure exactly where we wanted to go with this. I was sort of viewing messaging from what we're doing with Habitat for Humanity was something that I think would go over well. It's what I talk about with friends when they say, I support affordable housing, not that, and not that, and not that, and not that. So I'm always like, well, what do you support? So I think Habitat is one thing. And he talked about you want to probably do like maybe a minute, but what you need to do in order to do that. And I wasn't sure who our audience was, where we were shooting, where we'd put this information. Yeah.
That's the first question you need to answer, which is who's your target audience? What are you trying to say?
Right.
And I agree, short is better, but, to get a minute video, you're shooting a lot more than that. You're just condensing it down. Did I share the video that the South Central region put together?
No.
I think you did.
I watched it the other night.
It's very long.
It's wonderful video.
It is very well done. It's and that's kind of what I was thinking. I think the Habitat is a great case study.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking that, so much of the mystery, I guess, is who needs or who lives in affordable housing. And, it's people like those of us in the room. They look and sound like us. And
Yeah, I pulled some data. I don't know if you saw these things that the Center for Housing Opportunity put out, but the one that struck me when they were presenting it at a meeting I was at was Darien. The entry-level salary for a new teacher is at the 40% AMI level.
wow.
So this is the one for Fairfield. They've done for Fairfield, and first-year teacher, $56,000, and that's just between 50 and 60% AMI.
So
those were.
What I thought the South Central region did was it humanized the people who live in affordable housing. A lot of them, they're all people that work within the community, have lived in the community a long time. People who look like everyone else in the community, but it just talks a little bit about their story and what led them and how grateful they are. And it was it was very long. It's like 20 minutes.
About 20 minutes.
And
And it covers, I mean, there are probably, I don't know, 6 or 8 people that they spoke with. And they're, all over the state.
well, it's all in that region.
Yeah, it's all, I'm sorry, it's all in
Where's
that.
South Central Connecticut? What is
South Central is the towns around New Haven.
that? Okay.
It's like, 20 or 30.
So there was
towns.
Branford and Berlin and, drawing a blank right now, but
Clinton, maybe.
yeah, but it was really, I mean, it was really, it was heartwarming, and they did an excellent job, and the people were all very credible, very likable.
I was anticipating, I thought we could do something like that here. And there's certainly some people, there was a woman who came and spoke about Trefoil, lives in Trefoil Court. She was very eloquent. One of my fair rent commissioners lives in downtown, and she's in an affordable unit. She's, I think, in her 70s or 80s, but,
Eileen.
Eileen, yeah. So there's some people that I think, again, would tell a nice story and provide a human face as to the folks who need or live in affordable housing, and I think that would be very helpful. A good story to tell.
What's the purpose? Not the audience, but the purpose, what we're trying to achieve?
I think the purpose is to put a human face on the folks who need affordable housing. And I think what you hear a lot of times is a concern about who we providing affordable housing for. And it's the other, the person that lives outside the community. And oftentimes these are folks that have connections, deep connections to the town. They may have to move away at some point and then move back and find it hard to find a place that they can afford. Eileen, she moved away and then came back to be close to family. That happens a lot. And I talk to a lot of elderly people that's the situation. Then young people, a different thing. They trying to start out and just can't find a place. And a lot of people that are living in some of the restricted ownership units, you've got educated professionals that are living in these units. They just don't make enough money. And I think there's oftentimes a perception that the people who are living there are, on SNAP benefits and, welfare, and, they're not working. And that's not true. So I think that's what I could see as beneficial.
And you would use it like for when you give talks, it would sort of be to show a different face.
And I think, I do think the case study on Habitat, I do think that I have yet to find anyone who objects to those projects. And so people, there's a couple things. There's the sweat equity component, the fact that it's ownership housing, it's fairly modest in scale.
It's a good brand name.
It's a good
So we took
brand.
blighted properties, which is what I
So I think
made something of them.
I think it's a really powerful story, and I think it's one where a lot of people could get behind it. And again, if the purpose of that is to kind of talk about the Housing Trust Fund, the role of the Housing Trust Fund, why that's important, how that helped, that you could have that brochure and give now. You have the brochure, but you also have a video to go with it. So
Many of these videos get posted on the town site.
use the video to post on the town site, and then we would take little vignettes and we would do social media through them too.
Okay.
So
But if we could show let's say we had a meeting at Holland Hill School. Because we want to get in the middle of the community, right? So let's say we had a meeting there or McKinley or wherever. And, maybe we could show 5 or 6.
yeah, it's hard to probably get some of those people that would be in the video to come out to meetings regularly, but you have a video that would help
Yeah, show it.
in their own words.
Well, I'll keep talking to him and see what kind of budget we would need to do
Yeah.
different stuff and see what he recommends. So I've got some other names to call, but he seemed really good.
So
So
Alex is very good. We've worked with him before. As you said, he's does a good job, and you know, he does have other clients that pay
right.
he will
was
give
on
us-
his way to New York to
He
film.
can give us a discounted rate. This is what I'm saying.
Okay, so I'll keep looking into it and try to get more concrete numbers around it. So.
Great. Okay, any other business for tonight?
They're all talking.
So we talked about January 15th is this desegregated Connecticut Zoom for commissioners. So that would, we would be welcome to participate in that.
Yeah, feel free to share any of that amongst yourselves. I mean, again, that's.
I'll forward that to everybody with the FOIA. Then also tomorrow is the first in the series of
The land bank?
I'm going to that. I'm
Community
signed
Land
up for
Trust.
that. I think I'm signed up for the 15th too.
Yeah, see if you can drill down a little bit more, because we have a kind of a land bank set up, so we need to understand what makes, setting up a 501c3 land bank that much better than the
Right.
town land bank,
Yeah, Connect is trying to do some legislation around YIGBY, yes, in God's backyard. So we're interested in sort of how we can translate that to use for faith organizations. So that's where I'm going.
Interesting. I hadn't heard that term, but so this is church or house of worship property, or
I'm sorry,
is Yigby referred to?
church property. They're actually developers that just do church properties. I've talked to a couple of them. So they're working with St. John's on Park Avenue, is interested in doing it. And it's a way to fund your church, basically, by having rental property. So, but they try to do right and do a number of affordable housing too. So
Well, how do you fund the church out of it?
you make rental income. And it's why First Church we do well, because we have Montessori school. So it really helps us. And we rent, space out to nonprofits. So
St. Emery's has done
Supplements our
pretty well,
budget.
haven't they?
pardon me?
St. Emery's
Yeah.
Bureau Street has certainly made out well with that, right?
Right. Yeah, that we don't want to do. Yeah.
It's an outright sale, yeah.
So let's see.
Excuse me, Jackie, you guys still own where,
Operation Hope.
I'm sorry?
Operation Hope, is that
Yeah.
what?
Yes,
Yeah.
we own that building. Yeah.
And so what's going to happen when they move out?
So we're hopeful that we're doing a long-term lease. I forget what you call it. You told me what you call it. With the Irish Famine Museum.
Oh.
They're dying for the
yeah.
space. They've got architectural designs. They're
They were measuring the curtains about a year and a half ago.
4 years ago. Yeah, a long time ago.
That'd be a good use, but you have air rights above that, right? You could build a couple of more stories.
Yeah, no, we can't. The Historic District Commission won't allow us. Operation Hope would have stayed if they could have done that.
Yeah?
They wanted to put on a second story, and the Historic District wouldn't allow it.
That is the problem with that parcel.
Too bad.
Okay. No other business for tonight? Any questions from Gus tonight? Okay. Gus, great to have you as always.
Very happy to be here.
Anytime.
Thank you so much.
You got the meeting scheduled? Yeah,
I
okay,
appreciate it.
okay, all good. Okay, I guess we can take a,
Yeah, just the elections. So we got 2 new members or 3 new members on planning and zoning, is that right?
I know of at least 2.
Yeah, at least 2.
yes. So,
3.
Jonathan Delgado,
Oh, he was on, but as an alternate.
he was an alternate before. Veronica
Veronica
Monahan
New.
is new. And there's another one.
Yes. Anyway,
his name escapes me, so there are at least three, there are three, I guess.
Do they get any training on
Yes.
affordable housing
well, they got training. I don't know.
or introduction, or, or should we invite them to come to one of our
Well,
meetings? Should we
hopefully-
reach out to them?
Hoping to have a joint planning meeting.
Yeah.
at some point.
Well, I'm thinking just with them who've not been involved before. So if you get 15 people in the room, it's hard to share information, but if you have 3 sitting around a cup of coffee,
I think they get training.
Steve, I can tell you that Jonathan works for the city of Bridgeport. He's deputy OPED
Yeah.
director. He-
Jonathan knows what he's
Pretty
doing.
knowledgeable.
Some of our meetings,
He's
right?
very, yes, and, I mean, he's very plugged in. And, we've been working with him for years.
Yeah.
And, but I don't know about Veronica Monahan. I mean, I know she's been on one, I think this zoning board of appeals, I think. I don't know what, and then this new younger fellow, I'm not certain.
I'm going to defer to
Yeah.
planning staff. I think, there is some required training that they need to go through.
And as we get additional members, newer members,
Yeah.
Mark's had a couple of off-site meetings in the past, and we can,
Certainly do that again.
we invited
the
the,
PDF thing.
Yeah, we've done a kind of an orientation.
Yeah, with Bill and,
Program.
I forget who was besides Bill.
Kathy.
Well, I invited the Planning and Zoning Commission
Yeah.
and the first selectman to attend.
Yeah.
A couple did attend.
yeah, Alexis and Kathy
That
did both come.
Did Bill,
Okay.
so, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, we could do that once we get up to full membership, I guess.
Good thought.
I don't know if I'd be able to get through a program with Tom. Questions.
Well, we're working to exhaust his questions. Tom would be a great addition. Okay, if none other business, I guess we can entertain a motion for adjournment. Jackie, moved by Deb, all in
Second.
favor?
Yeah.
Thank you all. Happy holidays, everyone.
Yeah, that's right. Have a good time.
Hanukkah starts on Sunday night, right?